Hello, my name is Ryan Norton, and this is my uh, kinesiology lab final for analysis in the discus and the shot put throw. Firstly, we're going to establish some va baseline videos. These are the discus and the shot put have very variable ideas of technique. And so playing a professional would not necessarily be helpful because technique differs for everybody. These are videos of me. Little bit of context. I had broken my foot recently. This discus video is me getting back into throwing discus after a long hiatus. I've not yet gotten back into throwing shot put. So this is a video from about 2 years ago and the technique errors that I had back then. And then we'll compare those to videos from now for the discus throw from the transition of after me breaking my foot to now, and then the video from about 2 years ago in the shot put to right before I broke my foot to show the transition there. So let's see the baseline video for the discus. Very sloppy. We see the discus fall that way. And we're going to analyze that later in the videos or in the still frames. And in the shot put, very clearly did not get a good flick on it, didn't get a lot of force transfer into the ball. And so we will analyze how we've improved. Here is the latest video in the discus. Flying much flatter, a lot smoother movement, a little bit of wobble in the discus, but positionally much better. And in the shot put, a lot more force going into that ball. So as we analyze movement, we're going to divide the throw up into 5 positions, the first being the entry. The entry has two main focuses: to keep the shoulders flat and to get over your left side. In both events, specifically in the discus. So the discus we see when I first got back from the or the foot surgery, I was not necessarily getting over the left. So the position that we like to see is that the ball of the foot, the knee, and the armpit are all in the same position. And we see that a lot better throughout this new throw. We see a obtuse angle of the spine and the hips, and we kind of want to see that as a right angle because you're leaning over more, getting balance onto that left leg. You cannot push off something that you're not balanced on, and so we want to establish that balance as early as possible. Same thing with shot put here from the old video. We see the shoulder being a little back. We do have that 90-degree angle. However, the hip is very clearly dipping in. We see external rotation in this portion of the throw of the hip, but excess external rotation can cause your weight to be, your center of gravity to be pulled into the middle and to kind of throw off your balance for the rest of the throw. And so we want to establish movement over the left side, but we want to do it without pushing the left knee into the circle too much. And so we see that here. Something that can be corrected is we still have an angle of the shoulders, as do we here. A flatter angle of the shoulders would be a little bit better, but that's a lot better than the downward angle and uh, off-matched arms of previous. And we're definitely seeing a downward angle here, whereas everything's sort of at the same level here. We're once again seeing a better establishment of getting over the left with the armpit and the knee and the toe all over each other, and an establishment of that 90-degree angle of the torso and the leg. Left foot up is the second position. This is a position that I've been working on a lot, especially in the shot put. Me and my coach have worked through biomechanical analysis to understand that pushing for me, the best case scenario is where my foot pushes not towards the circle. This is a stylistic thing for a lot of people as to how they can produce force the best. And I produce force best with my foot kind of pointing this direction and pushing off towards the circle because as you can see, my knee and hip are aligned towards the middle of the circle. However, my foot's still pointing over here. So when my foot starts pointing over here, my knee and hip start pointing over here as we continue the rotation, and that loses me momentum and force out of the back of the throw. So with pointing here, we're allowed to get that momentum. Now, torque is a aspect of the throw in this back part, where if you have a wider spread, you can produce more torque, which brings more speed into the middle of the throw, because obviously your legs are going to weigh the same. The only difference is the distance from the fulcrum. So by increasing that distance, by increasing this angle here, we increase the torque and increase the speed, because as we're coming in from the back, the idea is you have a wide leg spread and then you tighten that leg spread to increase speed in the last portion of the throw, similar to how a ice skater starts wide with their legs and arms and brings it in tight to speed up their skating, because the momentum of the body move of the extremities creates the speed to do those movements. We see a decently closed off chest here. That's both similar. Nothing bad about that. In all honesty, it could be a bit more open, like around here. What we don't like to see so much is that my left arm is creeping ahead of the system, as we call it. So the left arm and the shoulders, the left arm's a little, or the right arm's a little behind the system, the left arm's a little ahead of the system. Um, this is something that I had figured out in the shot put, still have figured out in the shot put, where the left arm and the right arm are in line with the system. However, we still see that left foot creeping in a bit more. Not ideal for my technique. Decent leg spread, but here we see much more of that drive towards the right sector line of the throw and still having that leg spread to gain momentum, along with a straight spine. We do want to see the spine be towards the right of the throw. This allows you to maintain momentum on that balanced leg. If you have a straight up and down spine, as you can see, my center of gravity is probably somewhere over here, which is not ideal if you're pushing off this foot, because it's just going to drive me that way. If my center of gravity is here, then that drives me here, which is where we want to be. We want to be in the center of the circle for the right foot. Don't necessarily get there in these throws. In all honesty, that's a little bit of laziness on my part. But center of gravity is good here. We're just not producing a lot of force. So when we get into the next position, which is right foot down, we want to see this together position. So noting before how the left arm and the right arm were separate from the system, the left arm's still a little bit behind the system, but the right arm's back with the system now, in the point that we have a straight line. We have a upper body, upper extremity system that is locked to produce the maximum amount of force without the left arm leading or the right arm lagging behind. We want to see a good stack of the knee over the toe, and then the head over both of those systems. We see the head in front of it in this situation. We see a much better stack here. However, once again, we're losing a lot of the force and our spread is greater because of that pre-turn and that lazy foot out of the back. Because of this, the right arm is behind the system, the left arm is pulling ahead. So we see the left arm staying there. The idea is to get separation between the lower extremity and the upper extremity throughout the movement. So with that, we want the lower extremity to land and the upper extremity to have left arm over here, right arm over here. With that, the best option to do that is to maintain your chest to be towards the sector line. In both of these instances, my head is pulling forward. This instance, much more. You can see my head pointing this direction, whereas my head is pointing this direction. We would like my head to be pointing this direction throughout the middle of the throw. The middle of the throw is honestly my greatest weakness in my throw, and it's brought me a lot of problems of creating force from the back, but then losing that force because I'm too impatient with my upper body in the middle. Looking into the shot, but we have a decent shot. We have a big spread on the knees. So as I was saying before, we want to tighten those knees as we come into the power position. So that way, all of the speed that we're gaining from the back gets even faster, or all of the force that we're gaining from the back gets converted into speed by having a tight axis of rotation, longitudinal, of course. And so we see a large knee spread, we see a smaller knee spread. This foot is ready to land, whereas this foot is up in the air and it's going to take a long time to get up, 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 and down. Whereas this foot is just going to come around, bam. Same instance with this foot. This knee is a bit closer. This foot's ready to get down there. This foot's going to come around, round, 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 and get down. Onto the power position. We have bad foot placement here. We like to see the right foot ahead of the left foot. It allows you to get into a better position. So we have bad foot placement here and bad foot placement here. But we did get through the shot ball, so that was not all as terrible as it could have been. We will see peeling off of the shot a little bit later. The left arm is still ahead of the system. The right arm is behind the system. If the chest is a good indicator and the chest is pointing here, the right arm should be right about here, and the left arm should be right about here. The head is pulling off left, pulling off left, pulling off left, pulling off left. That's also been a great technical error in my throws is that I'm unable to allow my head to be patient and allow the discus or the shot put to finish the throw before my head peels off and creates problems for me. The right foot is not in a great position in either of these videos. We would like to see it to be pointing to the right so that way it can turn uh, and finish into the throw that way. This is just creating a lot more work for the right foot to do as it goes into the finish. And as you can see in the finish video, we don't do the work and we take a little bit of a shortcut to get into the finish. Once again, right foot pointing a little bit far. We like to see the flatter upper body. And so we have a nice flat arm here, arms down low in this video. But we do have shoulders stacked in all these videos over the hips, none of them leaning back or leaning forward too terribly. Just pulling up a little bit here, pulling up a lot here. And as we saw in the video, the discus flying like that is not how we prefer. We prefer it to fly flat. So when we get into the finish, we can see that the arm pulls up. That may look like a flat line, but it's ever so slightly up. The angle of the head is pulling to the left ever so slightly, and the foot is going in the right direction, but because the head is pulling to the left and the discus is pulling up, that's going to create a flight of the discus that goes dun 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 down just like that. Now, if we could get this right foot to turn all the way through and finish this throw directly through, along with a slightly higher discus finish, this throw would be immaculate. But because this throw ends with the foot turning to here instead of turning all the way through, we get sort of a floppy disc finish, and that results in not the best throw that we could have had. In the shot put, we see a drive straight up, and because of that, we see a sort of split stance jump. Um, However, the throw and this would be decent. We do like to see that the feet stay on the ground throughout the movement. This would be decent had the shot put came out the hand correctly. The shot put comes out the hand correctly when the elbow is high and the hand is still on the ball in this direction, not this direction. You cannot produce force out into the sector as much with your hand up as you can with your hand out, and you can continue pressing. We see a good finish here. However, the foot does not do its job getting through the throw, and the upper body is pulling off of the throw. And that results in the pull that we saw to the left in the video. However, we still transferred through the ball well. So continued impairments, peeling off finish, as we mentioned in both of the good videos, there was an aspect of the throw that was still to be had that could be improved. The open power position with the right foot lagging behind the system, both good throws. The right foot did not finish through the throw and did not make a good example to say this is how it's done. Um, the chest is open, pulling to the left in the right foot down position, the middle, um, and the head is entirely too active throughout the movement, pulling me out of positions and being quite a pain. Some movements that could improve general head stability and um, ideas of that would be an emphasis on right head rotation via longitudinal axis, a transverse plane throughout the throw. That's obviously throwing me off because the weight of the head is a bowling ball, 16 pounds, and its positioning, whether too far right, too far left in my case, can throw off the throw a good amount. Application intervention during practice. Cyclops throws are a idea in which the athlete closes their right eye. So they only have one eye open. Um, Not necessarily your right eye for a left-handed throw, you close your left eye. Um, you complete the throw, but during the finish, you want to see the discus or the shot put coming out of your hand with your opposite eye. A common cue that coaches give is to see the ball, see the disc come out of your hand. The athlete can still accomplish this with the head tilting off. If you close this right eye, this is no longer possible, and the head has to be engaged in the system to properly finish the throw. Uh, Involving these throws each session before full throws. A throwing session typically goes stand throws, half throws, South African throws, and then full throws. Um, can improve the feeling throughout the full throws when you're not necessarily focused on the drill aspect of it. The throw turning on the finish that we talked about was something that can be fixed with non-reversibles. So in both of those videos, you see my feet switch at the end. There's another type of throwing that's not used as commonly anymore, especially not used with somebody of my stature, as I'm a little bit smaller for the discus and shot put throwing sports. Um, where the person does not swap feet at the end. They simply press as hard as they can, and then their right foot moves toward the toe board or the end of the discus circle, and they do their best to stay in the circle because that is the rules of the sport. Emphasis on finishing the throw with these, focus on the right foot turning through the throw, focus on maintaining ground time, which allows you to continue to produce force through the finish, and overall creates a better feeling for those throws. So still in the disc flight and the shot put hand placement, there was a little bit of the off. We could see the good shot put was still a little bit like this. We would like to see it be like this. And the discus was a little bit low. We'd like to see it even so that way we get rid of that floppy discus. So in those warm-up reps of the stands, the halves, the South Africans, we want to establish correct disc flight arm placement and shot put hand placement for the finish. So that way, once we do get to the full reps, the reps that will be competition caliber, we want to make sure that those will be correct finishes to not sort of waste the reps in simpler terms to say that you can do a lot of good things technically, but if you mess up on the finish, it doesn't look like a good throw. As far as training aspects, we can do finish turns with a barbell where you get into that stance. You have a barbell on your shoulders. You focus on the sequence of turning your right foot, turning your knee, turning your hip, and then turning the body to establish that lower body separation where the lower body gets done with the throw first to establish that stretch reflex where you can finish into the throw. Isometric chi hold with a light plate. This can be done on an incline bench where you hold out a 2.5 and have assisted resistance. So a coach will tap in all directions. It's your job as an athlete that requires a lot of shoulder stability in their sport to maintain your sort of shoulder stability throughout those positions, and that allows you to control the position of the discus a lot more throughout the throw. And then for shot put, we have a single arm landmine press and a split stance. A split stance is going to mimic the throw a lot. The landmine press is going to mimic the angle of the throw a good amount. This is a very transitional movement where uh, you can access immediate aspects of the throw throughout the single arm landmine push press. We're going to do those alternating. We're going to involve the left side as well. But you can really load that up and you can get some specific strength done, or you can make it really light, but still obviously heavier than the 16-pound ball that would be thrown, and focus on speed to show how to finish the throw in a fast manner. And that should be everything. Thank you for listening.